going to put everything onto Google Classroom. So we've all set our exams in Word documents with our instructions, etc. And we've also created the answer key using rubrics to show exactly how the marks allocated are going to be distributed and what the students need to do to achieve the full grade. Now, once you've done that, you are ready to upload your exams to your Google Classroom. Before you can go to Google Classroom and upload anything to Google Classroom, you would have to upload the file, the Word document, this example exam, to your Google Drive. And once it's in your Google Drive, you're then going to convert this, and we'll open the example. We are then going to convert it to a Google Doc. Now you'll see that when you open it, it has this tail at the end that says DOCX, which means this is a Word document. So I want to save this as a Google Doc because that's what I'm going to be using it as in my Google Classroom. So once you've done that, you can go back to your Google Drive and you'll see that here is this example exam. The W means it's a Word document, and this means it has been converted to a Google document. And this is the one that I want to work with. So I'll open this exam and I'm going to prepare it for my students. There's only one thing that you need to do, and that is at the end of each question, we are going to insert a cell for students to type in, because we want the students to answer this question for us in a specific place. So I'll just do that for each of my questions. And let me just go to question 2.1, insert a cell there, and this is my calculation. Oops, my writing is red, and I will insert it as a single cell. If you want to, you can go to your cell and you can change the color maybe to blue. So that means that every time that your students go into that cell, if the cell is blue, the typing is going to be blue, which could also be a nice way for the examination to be done, so that your students' writing is going to be a different color as soon as they start typing. Right, so now my Google Doc is ready, and I can go to my Google Classroom. And what I've done is I've already started setting this up. So I created an assignment, Semester 1 final exams, and I've indicated this is for my distance learners. I've copy and pasted the instructions that are on my paper, and if there's any other instructions, we will just add them. The next thing is I'm going to indicate that this is an exam. My topic is exams, so I created a topic for exams. Due date, let's say, for example, this is an exam that is written as a distance learning exam on the 17th, and the distance learners have to submit by 12:30 p.m., then that's the time that I'm going to allocate as that's when it's due. All right. If you have categorized your Google Classroom and weighted it according to the ongoing assessments for your semester, then you will have this. If you haven't, then you will not see the section. But I have, so I will tell my Google Classroom that this is an exam. And then the points, I'm going to change the points just now, because the next step is we are going to create a rubric. Now, the rubric is going to be a rubric that's going to speak to my answer key. So you've already created an answer key for this exam that the students are going to write. So I'm going to put this in here. So this is for question 1A, and this is 0 marks for incomplete. I can copy paste, but I think I can type it faster. And the description is what is it that you have to do to make it wrong. So I'll copy paste that description in there. Then I'll add the next one on, which is 1 mark, and that is for mastered. And I'll copy paste the criteria in there. So now the next step is to add a criteria, because next question is 1B. And I'll go to 1B, and I'll do the same. I'll indicate the points. Here would be 0 points, incomplete, and so on and so on and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually not going to put this rubric in. I'm going to delete it, and the reason is I've already done this just to make it faster. So I'm going to just reuse because I've already created a few rubrics. So I have created this one here for semester 1 final exams, and I'm just going to add in on that one. So I've only done the first 2 up to 1B, so obviously I would have to do 2.1, and I'm just going to show you how do you finish this rubric. So I'll edit it, add the criterion. So now I'm going to put in 2.1. And it is 0 points. And so on and so on and so on. Okay, so at the end of this, when I'm finished, I'm going to save it. And I would have my rubric ready for my students. And now the last thing that I need to add is I need to add my paper. So I'm going to add from my Google Drive, I'm going to add the example paper as a Google Doc, not as a Word document. Be very, very careful. You want to select the Google Doc. I'm going to insert this. Now I need to change this because I want to make a copy for each student. That's very, very important. Every student's going to get their own copy. So now everything is correct, I think. Obviously, I don't want them to have it out of 100. It's out of 3 here on mine. Yours will be out of 30, 20, 25, 40, 45, 50, whatever your paper's out. I'm just going to make it according to my rubric, just because this is just for demonstration. Right, now I'm ready. I'm not going to assign this paper yet because my students are not going to write it. And the next thing I still have to do is I have to select the students. Now, because your students are in different classes, you would have to make sure that you create the same assignment, you copy, paste, you open up your different classrooms, and you would have to create these assignments for the different classes. But important thing is not all the students are distance learners, some will be face-to-face. So because I've signed in here as a visitor, so I can show you what it looks like, what the exam is going to look like as a student, I'm just going to select my visitor. And so that would be my one student that's distance learner that's going to be writing this exam. So you will then close this assignment. You can either close it there. If you close it here, it is going to close and it's going to save it. If I go to exams, you can see that there it is saved. It is saved as a draft because I haven't assigned it yet. The HODs are then going to sit down with you. You're going to edit it again. You're going to check everything to make sure the correct students were selected, that the points are correct, the rubric's correct. You're going to double check everything that you've added, that this is a copy for each, that this is a Google Doc, etc., etc. And then you are ready on the day of the exam to go and push assign. So please do not push assign until the 17th of January when this exam is due. But let's pretend it's the 17th of January and I'll push assign and I'm going to assign this paper to the student. The student is now going to answer this question paper and then we are going to grade it. So if we go to the student, and I'm just going to update the student's Google Classroom. And I see here is the exam that was just posted. And I see that my name's already in front of it as a student. I can open it up. There's the rubric. I can see the rubric. But when I open this document up, the rubric's not there for me to see. If I want to see the rubric and I want to look at the mark allocations as a student, I would have to do this and come and look. Okay, for question 1A, what is it that I need to do? But it's not next to the student. The student is then going to answer the paper. Let's say this is B. Let's say And I will answer the paper. Students can also write on a piece of paper, take a photo and put it in there. And then I will, when I'm finished as a student, when I'm done, you see that there's a button here that says turn in. I'm going to go here, I'm finished, I'm going to turn my exam in. Does ask the student for the second time, are you sure you want to turn in? I can say turn in. Now when the student's turned in, you can see here it says unsubmit. Nothing stops the student from unsubmitting. But as soon as the student unsubmits, it says unsubmit or add. Don't forget to resubmit once you're done. Unsubmit. But if I resubmit, it's going to register a new time. You can see the time is that this is my due time. So if it's 12:30 and I've submitted it at 12:30 and at 12:35 I unsubmit, then it's going to show that I've only resubmitted it at a later time. So I'm just going to turn it in again. And then I'm going to go back to the teacher version. So I'm the teacher, I've assigned it. Now I can see one student that it's been assigned to has turned it in. I can go to that, see who's the student who turned it in. I can open the paper. And now every student that you grade, the student's name will be at the top and the rubric is immediately next to you. You can go look at the answer, 1B, and I can go look and say, okay, well, this answer is actually incorrect. And then I can go to the next one and I can go 1B and I can say, okay, for this one, the answer is semi-correct, so I'll give that this grade. And for 2.1, which I didn't finish, obviously 0 points, and I will give no grade. Right, so you grade it. When you finish, you do not say return because this is not the day I want to return this to the students. I'm still going to check this and then I'm still going to do my feedback. So let's say, for example, you did not mention the effect on moving objects. So I can give the student some feedback. Obviously, it could be lengthier than this. You could put voice notes in. But I want to show you what happens on the student side. So I haven't said return. As long as I don't say return, whatever happens is the student can open their file. They can look at it. You can see that there's this request access. The students need to unsubmit to type anything, or they need to request access. And you can see that everything that I typed in there, the grades, everything, that nothing is showing on the student side. All right, so I'm going to close it again. So now if I'm finished grading it and we've checked everything, I've given feedback, your HOD is happy with everything, and she says you can now return your grades to your students. You can come and you can select return. And once you select return, now the student is going to get their paper back. So if I go back to the student version, you can see that it says resubmit here. My work has been graded. I can go and look at it. I can look at my answer. I can look at the questions to see what has been graded wrong. I can see teacher comments. And the student will get the grade emailed to them and it will go to their Google Classroom. Now, let's say a student comes to gets the paper back and go, oh, so A was the correct answer. And I go here, Miss, I got this question correct. Right, and I decide, I'm sending this back to the teacher because I want this grade. Now, the teacher is going to get this back. Let's quickly go back to the teacher version of this. And you see that again, it's turned in. And I can just refresh this, so I can see that the students turned it back. It's very important to obviously refresh. And the students sent it back to me and indicated that they got this correct. Now, it's very difficult for students to type in something, anything on their papers that you cannot go and double check when they fixed it or when did they change this. I just want to refresh this a bit. So when you look at this, it will give you changes that was made. Last edit was made 1 minute ago. So always refresh. In any case, it will be refreshed by return. I just have to refresh it because I get it open. So if I go in here, I can see that at this time when it was submitted, I can go and look at what was the student's response. So the student made some changes. If I drop this down, so I can see here that this is what the student submitted, and then the student submitted this to me. So I can see that a change was made. At 10:14, the answer submitted was B, but then the student sent it back to me at this date and this time, telling me that the answer is different, that the answer is now A. And I can see that that was a change that was made. And the student typed in, "Miss, I got this right." So I can go back to the students and say, "No, you wrote B, and when you got your paper back, you changed it to A because you did this change at 18 minutes past 10 on January the 8th. Obviously, for you, the dates would be different days. It would clearly show the student did it a week later or 10 days later, whatever, however the time frame before you return the paper. So please don't worry, students cannot do anything on their papers that will not be recorded. So even, yeah, this is the version that was recorded when the student opened the paper. Then this is the answers that the student put in on this day and at this time. And then it also shows you the answers that were submitted. And then it shows the changes that the student made 2 minutes later. All right, so anybody who's worried about students unsubmitting work and adding things into it, please rest assured that students cannot do that. Right, so what I'm just going to also do is show you just an overview of training that I did with science teachers. If you mark the papers and you just close it, so in other words, when you grade this, don't say return, just close it, it's going to clearly save it as a draft. And it will show you that you've graded it, but it's saved as a draft. Everything that you've graded but not returned saves as a draft. You just simply close it. If you've marked it and returned it, then it's going to come up like this. It's going to show these are graded and it has been returned to the students. It's not saved as drafts. These haven't been graded. They haven't been graded. These have been graded, but they've been saved as drafts. They haven't been sent back to students. I can simply open up the student's exam, open their paper, go and look at the answers that the student's given in the paper, and then after looking at it, I can then go to the answer key and I can then allocate the grades. And as I click on it, it's going to give the student a grade, and obviously automatically it's going to give me a mark, and as long as I do not say return, it is going to come up on my side. If I refresh it, it's going to show that I marked Rehab Maksud's paper, but it's saved as a draft. All right, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, please just do not hesitate to come and see me. I'm quite willing and prepared to help anybody with anything. Thank you very much for your attention and good luck with the upcoming exams.